Welcome to the Rehumanization Station. I'm your collaborator, Christopher Jones, aka Dr. X, and this podcast is an extension to my Flippin' and Vibin' brand, where vibers seek to transform narratives in society, education, and in today's case, sports. Today is our Ball Life series, where we have a multifaceted viber with us today named Harriet. Harriet, how you doing?
I'm great. Thanks for having me.
Oh, man, I forgot your last name.
Ottewill-Soulsby.
Ottewill-Soulsby. Okay, sorry.
My mum's a feminist. She wanted to keep her name.
Oh, okay. I see that. That's all right, though. Did she do a hyphen, or she just kept it?
She kept hers, and then we got hyphenated.
Okay. Yeah. More power to you, mama. More power to you. All right. So, a bit about Harriet. Despite falling in love with Durham when she was 13 years old, touring universities for her older brother, she went on to study for her undergraduate degree in the U.S. There, she majored in international affairs and German with a minor in Africana Studies, which has interested me. We'll get into that a bit. While competing as an NCAA Division One student athlete. After graduating, Harriet knew she hadn't finished with education and returned to the UK to achieve her dream of being a student at Durham University and further pursue both her academic and athletic goals. Harriet's MA in International Relations from Durham, along with her international upbringing, gave her the confidence to pursue a career overseas in the field of education while also playing professional basketball, which she still does today. Having loved her time at Durham, she couldn't stay away for long and returned in a professional capacity as international officer for Europe, Gulf, and the UKI. Before moving into the Americas alongside this role, Harriet plays for the Super League basketball team and has represented Great Britain internationally for Team GB. Ooh, okay, this is amazing. It's going to be a good show today. It's going to be a good show. This is the part of the show now where we're going to vibe with each other, give listeners an idea of your background and some of your personal interests. All right, so that's enough of me talking for a bit. But, Harry, you want to tell us, what's your story? Tell us a bit about your background, your birthplace, family, friends.
Yeah, so I am British. My parents are both English, but in their mid-20s, they decided to move overseas. And I was born when they were living in Holland. So I was born in the Netherlands, but after a few months, we actually moved to Italy. So my formative years were mostly spent in Milan. So I love Italian food.
Okay, what's your favorite Italian food?
Oh, anything with pasta. Can't go wrong, anything.
I hear you on that.
And then we moved to Germany. We first moved to Düsseldorf and then later to Berlin. So if anyone really asks me where my home is, I do say Berlin. I'm fortunate now to also have a German passport. And then when I was 14, I came to England. I wanted to study in the UK system, just alongside basketball with A-levels. Slightly easier because you do 4 A-levels, 3 or 4, rather than the IB system where you do 7. So came to the UK. I actually was in Loughborough, the other purple. And then while I was there, I was able to get a sports scholarship to go to the US.
You went to Loughborough?
Yeah, I was at Loughborough, yeah. Before it became Charnwood, I was like the OG Charnwood student. Was able to play for the pro team there. Before the Super League was actually a professional women's team, it was just Division One, so quite a while back now, but it's really cool to see how women's basketball, especially in the UK, has grown since that time.
Okay, cool. Yeah. Sorry to interrupt, you were still going about.
Yeah, no. After that, I was able to get a scholarship to the US. I went to Lafayette College in Eastern Pennsylvania, a liberal arts college, and then I came back to Durham. Had a really great time. I did my master's over 2 years and then went off to Europe, and now I'm back.
So what is it about Durham that made you want to come back?
Yeah, so my dad's family is from just outside of Newcastle, so I kind of always had it on my radar. But I would be lying if I said that Harry Potter wasn't an influencing decision.
Harry Potter, what's your favorite? Which one is your favorite? Did you read the books?
Yeah, I love the books.
See, I'm guilty. I'm the one who's watched all the movies numerous times but never read the books.
You were missing out. The books are so much better.
Which one's your favorite one?
Oh, possibly the Triwizard Tournament.
Okay.
Yeah. Although I would cry. Although I don't know if I cried more at Cedric Diggory dying or Dobby. It's a tough one. But if you're not that hardcore Harry Potter fan, I don't know if you would have an opinion.
But how different are the books compared to the movies?
They do stick to the storyline, but obviously they add a Hollywood twist on things and maybe don't include all the details that J.K. Rowling did include. But the fact that a lot of the courtyard scenes are filmed at the cathedral, I absolutely loved as a 13-year-old. So that is one of my factors. And for me, although I've always been raised in British culture, I didn't live that experience. So Durham is traditionally very British, very historic, but in a global environment. So compared to other Russell Group universities, compared to our location being outside London, we are very international, and I wanted to kind of have that British experience in a global context. And then obviously for sports, Durham is so good at sports. It was kind of win-win, a great education, great sports. What else could you want?
And which uni do you prefer here at Loughborough?
I plead the fifth. No, I'm kidding.
Funny.
I absolutely loved Durham, and obviously my life would look so different if I'd have gone to Loughborough. I don't think I would be in the career field that I am in now. I wouldn't have half the friends that I have. So I am definitely Team Durham. But
Durham,
they're both great.
Oh, yeah, that's cool. Okay. Yeah, and as far as your career now, how's that going? What does a typical day look like for you as an international officer?
Yeah, so I feel like I've got a 9 to 5 and then a 5 to 9. So it's really interesting kind of trying to blend the two. So I'm in the office twice a week. I'm dealing with prospective students from the US, from places like Mexico, from Canada. It's really cool now because a lot of those students are very sporty. So I get to talk about my experience as a student. I'm also liaising with counselors. I get to fly out and meet them in person. And then after 5 p.m, I go down to Maiden Castle, get to play basketball with some of the students that I have recruited myself because my team's very international. So I'm very lucky. It's great.
So what does like a recruitment process look like?
So we will often go out to high schools, we'll reach out to students, we'll go speak with counselors, and students will kind of then either hopefully come on campus and visit us, or they'll attend some of our virtual webinars to kind of learn a bit more about the uni. Obviously we're competing with a lot of great universities in the UK, but hopefully we give them more of an individualized kind of recruitment process, especially for sports. We've got a specific rep. If you're into postgrads, you want to do that degree, we've got a rep who's available 24/7 pretty much to talk about your opportunities at Durham and funding opportunities too.
And how long have you been doing that now for?
So I joined Team Americas a year ago, but I've been working in student recruitment for 2 years now. And I mean, it's amazing. I just get to talk about my own student experience.
Yeah, that's cool. I know because I see you walking around sometimes with people
I do.
in town. So it seems cool.
Yeah,
like
it's always great when people are in town because I don't have to answer my emails. Can do other stuff.
I hear that. Okay. And as far as what about activities, I guess we can get more into your family.
Yeah.
You have siblings?
I've got 2 brothers. We're all really tall. My older brother's probably the same height as me. My younger brother is way, way, way taller, but their height is wasted on them.
Sorry to interrupt. We have another middle child?
I'm the middle child,
yes. Yes, I am too. We had another Viber that was middle child. I can't remember which one it was, but were you the forgotten one?
I was absolutely not. I get all the attention because I'm the only girl.
Okay, got you.
So I have to respect that, and I always had the loudest voice. It's shocking that my brothers still interact with me and still like me because I was quite evil as a child.
Oh, wow, okay.
And I definitely demanded quite a lot of my parents' attention. This is before I got into sports. So sports really turned that energy that I wasn't using in the most productive way into something special, and I could really channel all that. I was not the forgotten child. My voice was very loud.
See, some stereotypes can be proven wrong.
Yeah.
Okay, so you said older, younger, parents.
Yes, my parents, they've just retired. They live in the south of France now, which is great. They're definitely 2 of my biggest idols in life. They packed up their lives. They've moved to different countries. My dad moved to Germany with us when he was 36, didn't speak a word of German, and now he's fluent in it. So really cool to see that influence. And and they've always been supportive. Neither of them knew anything about basketball before I started it. And now, you know, every day they'll be watching NBA League Pass. They'll be calling me up to ask if I saw this crazy stat line. And I'm like, I didn't have any time, but it's great. They would always fly around, watch as many games as they could. So I'm very lucky.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Okay, so basketball. So what about activities? What activities you would say bring you peace, love, happiness?
For me, it's definitely reading. My mum's an English teacher, so she always, you know, would always buy us any books that we kind of wanted because she wanted to nurture that passion.
Wait, which books you said?
Any sort of books. For me, I wish I could say that I enjoyed reading self-help books because I know I'd get a lot out of it. But for me, I love reading books because it takes me to a different universe. It takes me away from the stress of the day. You know, if I've had something difficult at work, if I've missed a shot that I was supposed to make at practice, I love reading books that, you know, give me an escape. Although
do you have a favorite one?
I don't.
What comes to mind? What comes right to mind once you think of a book?
Oh, that's really. I can't really think of a favorite book.
What about a genre?
Genre would be like, I think I would say fantasy, kind of urban fantasy, I'm going to say. I've been reading a lot of like smutty fairy novels lately, which I don't really want to admit to, but I have. I think for me, maybe my favorite books are sort of the ones that like my parents would read to me as a child growing up. Like giving me that time of day was stuff like Enid Blyton, the Harry Potter novels, things like that.
So urban fantasy, you're gonna have to give me a book recommendation because I'm too busy reading social justice books, so I need a bit more fantasy in my life to kind of get my head out of this world.
I can definitely get you some afterwards. For sure.
Cool. We can do that for sure. Okay, so books. You like to read books? What type of any music that you like?
Yeah, it really depends on the day. I'd say I probably listen to a lot of indie music, both like stuff like obviously Noah Khan right now, but also like the Smiths stuff from like the old school days. For basketball, it's definitely kind of 90s R&B, I would say, or hip hop that I would kind of listen to before a game, or but yeah, it's honestly anything.
90s R&B. So I gotta ask, because that's like my favorite genre. What would be a go-to group or song or
I think I always look up to like all the girl bands. Like, of course, it's classic like Destiny's Child, people like that. I'm not that cool. I also really like early 2000s. I think my go-to basketball song is "Blow the Whistle," I would say, but that's more 2000s.
Okay, Blow the Whistle.
That would be like my but yeah.
Okay, so that's your pregame song.
That is my pregame song.
That's interesting. Just okay, now I can just try to imagine if you're ever listening to something and you're walking, it's Blow the Whistle.
That's probably why me and refs don't always get along, because I've like hyped myself up with that song. Yeah, I probably should switch that. I should probably listen to classical instead. Be calm. Yeah,
because if people watch Harriet play, sometimes she can give the refs. But I mean, to be fair though, sometimes the refs do deserve it.
I got my first tech in my career 2 weeks ago, which is quite impressive.
Oh, your first tech?
My first ever tech.
Oh man, maybe it's just because you're getting a bit older, so you're just getting sick of it.
Yeah.
But first tech, that's pretty good then.
I know. I've been playing for over 15 years. So.
Wow. Okay. So 15 years. First tech. Was 2 weeks ago. Yeah. Which team? Who y'all playing? What happened?
I missed a layup and then yelled, "Come on!" at the ref. I probably just spooned the layup myself, but I wanted the foul call. It was justified. But I didn't get a warning or anything.
I just gave it to you?
Just gave it to me.
That's the worst.
Yeah.
That's the worst.
Oh, well.
Okay. But 15 years, you played for 15 years, right?
Probably longer, since I was 12, and I'm about to be 30 this year. Oof. So 17 years. Wow.
You say that's still young, you know.
Thank you, but I'm around all these postgrad students and undergrads, so they think I'm ancient.
I feel you, but you're still moving, you know. You're still doing your thing out there, you know.
If you could tell Lee that as well, I appreciate that.
Lee's the coach, by the way, of Durham. Okay. Okay. Well, what about could you think of any people that have been influential in your life?
Yeah. So I think obviously outside of my parents, I would say my basketball coaches have always been the most influential. And I would say Matt Harbour at Loughborough, well, he's now on the men's side at Manchester, but he really took me on. He was, I think, just a 24-year-old coach at the time, and I was living with students, and he took me under his wing. He developed me. Nowadays, it's a lot easier to get recruited to the US. I mean, obviously, there's still the same challenges, but there's more exposure.
Yes,
back then, we were clipping CDs together, trying to contact coaches. You didn't have all the websites with their emails, and he did a lot for me, and he did a lot for developing my game. And I think outside of that, obviously, Lee Davey as well. He brought me to Durham. He gave me the opportunity to play again when I came back. So I think they've probably been the most influential coaches that I've had. Yeah.
And you said it was Matt
Harbour. Yeah.
He's still coaching, you said?
Manchester on the men's side. Yeah. Men's side, okay. A huge loss to the women's. If Matt's listening to this, he should come back to the women's side of things.
Okay.
But yeah.
Well, that's good. Okay, so Matt and Lee Davey. Yeah, Lee got me out here too, so yeah, that's cool. Now, we know a little bit about, just things that you enjoy.
Yeah.
But within that and within your life, could you kind of explain some of the most challenging moments for you in sport, and how have you navigated them?
Yeah. I mean, I have been very lucky in my career. I've never really had any major injuries. I've been very fortunate enough that my recruitment process, I went to the same college. I didn't have to transfer. I didn't have anything like that. I have had disappointments. I've not made the final 12 for certain big tournaments. I broke my hand right before I was going to go to Australia, but I recognize that my career I've been very lucky. I would say for me, I guess, there's been a few coaches that I might not have meshed with their coaching style as well. And I think that kind of influenced my mental health. And I think for me, the biggest challenge sporting wise was my own self-belief, my own self-confidence.
Okay.
And I think that's only really improved with time. Right. And I think sometimes whether it's the truth or not, I've driven a narrative in my head, and I didn't always, especially when I was younger, I didn't know how to navigate those conversations with coaches to know, do they actually not like what I'm doing, or have I made this scenario up? So for me, I've always tried to have good communication with coaches. I've always tried to speak with them if anything has gone on. And if coaches are still not kind of responding to being willing, and they're still maybe not treating you the way you would like, I think then I've kind of just had to resign myself to the fact that whose opinion matters. And I'm not saying that I don't respect coaches or anything, but I'm saying, at the end of the day, I know who I am as a person. Right. I care about, what my parents think, what my partner thinks. There's coaches that I'll trust to get their opinion on, but I think in my career, a lot of the time I've doubted myself. I've doubted if I belong in that space, if I'm good enough. And if I could go back to anything, that's definitely something I'd be like, you were crushing it. You were doing a great job. Don't assume the worst. Try and communicate better with teammates and coaches. But I've been very fortunate. I've not had too many setbacks.
Okay. But and during that process, like when you felt like your confidence was shifty a bit.
Yeah.
What did you do to navigate everything? How did you?
Yeah. I mean, I think you have to be willing to put yourself out there, which is tough, because obviously when you're kind of in that headspace already, you kind of start spiraling. Right. I think speaking to your teammates is always a good thing. Speaking to a trusted coach that you might have had in the past. Like for me, when I went to the US, the NCAA setup is super intense, especially compared to the UK, even just like...
Definitely.
Yeah.
You come out here, it's just way laissez-faire, whatever you want to say, is way different, isn't it?
Absolutely. And you're far away from home. You don't have your immediate support network. So I think reaching out for help, like you're not alone. You've got, whether it's a professionally trained resource at your college, or whether it's a parent, whether it's a friend, kind of speaking to other people. I do think I have read a few self-help books, especially like I think The Subtle Art of Not Giving an F. I've read that one. A few basketball ones that I've read. Those did help me, but I think, speaking to people and then realizing that what is the most important thing to you, not letting loads of people's opinions affect you.
Right. And the U.S. is really big in basketball. So, like, if you, because you've played in both, right? We just talked about how there's differences. This is like for other people who may want to go into America and play. What do you feel like are some of the main differences when it comes to playing university?
Yeah, I mean, when you're going to the US, you are an athlete first. As much as they will give you this spiel about student athlete, student first, like your whole identity will be basketball, which for some people is great, but it's really tough if you've got other passions to kind of, especially when you go to university, that's kind of a time to discover who you are. I think for me, I grew up having a lot of freedom. My parents kind of raised me to be quite independent. And when I went to the US, coaches kind of manage you quite a lot. But for some people, that's great because you're becoming an adult. You kind of need that guidance. Right. But I would say prepare for the load. You're going to be training a lot. You're going to be working out a lot, which, I mean, there's pros and cons to it. I think for me, back in the day, we had 4-hour practices. I don't think you're allowed to do that anymore. For me, I was like, after 90 minutes, you're not going to get anything productive.
Wait, 4 hours?
4 hours. And we had different days. Like one day would be just defense focused. One day would be offensive. It was. Okay. Yeah.
I understand 2-a-days. So like 2 separate 2 hours and maybe a lift, but 4 hours straight?
It was really long.
You couldn't get away with that today.
Yeah, in quotation marks, we were not UConn. No one was coming to check up on us. Oh. So.
Right. And do you think it also depends on the level as well, maybe?
Yeah.
As far as how much attention is paid to how much attention is towards the sport that you play?
Yeah, definitely. Definitely depends on the level and where you're at. And
Okay. And so since you played in both sides, thank you for that. That's helpful. And I think if there's anything that someone could take away from that, what would that be?
In the recruitment process, sort of if they're thinking about going.
If they're thinking about going.
Yeah, I would definitely recommend you to do your research. I would say if you're able to speak with the players, that's the best thing. I mean, obviously some players are going to have bees in their bonnets, but it's really interesting to hear the student athlete experience because every coach is going to tell you what you want to hear. Only the players will kind of know what their coaching style is really like, how they load manage, things like that. And I would definitely recommend, I think in the US, there's so many universities. Not all of them are going to have the right degree for you. And as much as they're going to be talking about basketball, you really should look at your academic options too, because you need to kind of be set up for life afterwards.
That's a great point. And what do you think are some of the gender differences when it comes to men and women's basketball? What do you think are some of the differences when it comes to that?
Yeah. Well, I think that women's basketball is more interesting to watch because you play more together as a team. I think sometimes men's basketball can be, give me the ball, I'm going to go one-on-one. Sometimes, NBA basketball. I do enjoy watching NBA, but sometimes I'm like, you're just going one-on-one.
It's definitely shifting. Yeah, you're right.
Yeah. Whereas, I mean, the same can't really be said for European men like EuroLeague. I love to watch. They all work together. But I think because women don't tend to have the same sort of athleticism, you do work harder to get good shots. You do have to work as more of a team. And I also think outside of sport, women tend to have their heads screwed on a bit more about, what realistically they can get out of sports. But that's also detrimental because I think I always grew up playing basketball thinking, it's going to help me have access to education. I never thought, I'm going to go play professional basketball, whereas guys the other way. And I think maybe if I had been a bit more confident about my athletic abilities and going pro, maybe I would have got further in it.
Makes sense. Okay. And so, I mean, how do you feel about this assessment? Because we'll get to that then. We'll talk more about that now that we've kind of had an idea of your background.
Yeah.
Some of your experiences and how you've navigated them. Let's flip it, Okay. Now we will get more into your work and how you flip the script to traditional narratives, like we just were talking about. I've had a chance to, watch you play. Yeah. I've run into you in certain occasions when you're working here, promoting the university. Like I said, much of your career is around international relations and women's basketball. So for our Viber audience and us too, let's attempt to flip the women's international athletics script shall we?
Yeah.
Sound all right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. So what are your perceptions of traditional or normative narratives in the work that you do? So like narratives that create like prejudices and stereotypes, if that makes sense.
Yeah, that's a really interesting question, especially because I deal with people from all different countries. And I think, especially at a place like Durham, with our reputation, you know, we have a specific reputation from the past of being quite British. And it can be tough to navigate those relationships sometimes, especially, you know, with parents. They're sending their students overseas. They want to know that they're safe, they'll be integrated. And we're not just having conversations within the university. We're having conversations about the whole political situation in the UK, overseas. What we like to do is we like to create a space for students to kind of connect with other students from home, but also to show off their piece of home. So for example, we run a global week. I don't know if
I've heard of
attended it or we'll go to. It's usually in March, so it's a week just dedicated to international students to kind of show off their culture, their food, their language, and home students can come and learn about that. But there's definitely always going to be stereotypes of people depending on what country they're from, and I think you know, they're not necessarily true. It's just people have grown up in a certain environment and they're taught to believe a certain thing, and as soon as you get them in one room they realize, oh, we're actually very similar. We were just born in a different place. So it is interesting.
And we talk if you want to, we talked before about, you mentioned you were in Africana Studies. Can you give us just an example, like how that kind of shifted some of your awareness of certain things and how that translates to the work that you do, like just your international upbringing?
Yeah, definitely. So for me, I went to a predominantly white institution in the US, and I just don't think until I took a course in Africana Studies that I kind of understood the challenges that some of, you know, my teammates, some of my friends faced being in that space. I've always walked into a room and, you know, I've been in the majority of people of my skin color. I never even thought about how I might have to watch what I say or how people might perceive me because of that. And kind of understanding more about that history and how it's kind of structurally embedded things into society. You just, I never grew up, you know, walking down a street. A lot of people will cross a road if they feel unsafe, even just because of someone, how they look or how they might present themselves. And it's just these things that you're not aware of until you actually sit and think about your own biases and stereotypes. And it's, and
you feel like, and just how do you feel your international upbringing has helped you with the role that you're in now?
I think I have a lot more empathy and understanding to how those people are feeling, how the international students are feeling. I didn't really feel 100% English when I was here. I never fit into one box because I didn't go to the schools that other people went to. I didn't watch the same TV shows because we didn't have those channels at home. We didn't have all the same programs. So for me, I kind of know what it feels like to be the other. I'm quite lucky that I can be a chameleon. I can switch into that.
Oh, chameleon. I
like that. You know, maybe that should have been my Viber, chameleon Viber. But I think kind of having lived in a lot of different places, I speak a few different languages. I'm quite adaptable. My parents, you know, when we were growing up, we moved every 3 or 4 years. I'm kind of used to that. It's the norm. But some people, you know, they grow up in one place. That's kind of what most people do, and they're not used to other people's ideas or beliefs, and it can be quite difficult to have those beliefs challenged.
You're right. Okay, thank you for that. And now, in regards to women's basketball, what do you think are some like stereotypes and narratives within women's basketball? I
think the biggest thing at the minute is people saying that no one watches women's sports.
We can get into this.
Yes. You know, if you look at the college level, oh my gosh, I mean, places like South Carolina, UCLA, UConn, Iowa, everything, you know, even WNBA, people are showing up, they're selling out the crowds. But then you look at even our level, so Durham, you know, compared to some of the other leagues or some of the other clubs in the league, yeah, we don't quite have that same following, but people are still showing up to our games. And it was really cool because actually one of my colleagues came to our game last week and he brought his 8-year-old son. His 8-year-old son, I'd given him a Great Britain t-shirt, and he came around after the game and asked us all to sign the shirt, and then asked his dad if he could get a frame and hang it up in his bedroom. And to me, when I was 8 years old, boys wouldn't pass me a ball. So to have someone, you know, an 8-year-old boy idolize, you know, female athletes, that's really cool. They don't look at, oh, they're not guys, they can't dunk. You know, they're just impressed at the level that we play at, the dedication that we've got. And I think that's a common misconception, that people don't look up to that, they don't watch that. So I'm hoping that changes soon.
How do you feel the dynamic has it changed? Is it the same from when you first started? Like, what are the differences or similarities, if you can think of any?
Do you know what? I think we're quite lucky here at Durham. Obviously it would be great if we had a men's Super League team. That would be amazing. But because we don't, the focus is on us. So in the UK, I think we're quite lucky to have that attention. But if you look at how far the league has come from 5 years ago, we're having all-star games. We had London Lions in the Euro Cup winning the whole thing. They had packed out fans. It has come so far. People can make a living. You don't have to have a second job. You can play professional basketball and just play professional basketball. Back in the day, a lot of people would have a second income coming in. So it's really cool to see that develop, not just across the world. Obviously, it's on a much bigger scale in places like Europe, the US, but even in the UK, it's great to see.
Right. And you mentioned about, I know earlier you mentioned about, you talked about GB, right? How was that experience? Where did you recently play?
Yeah, we went to Rwanda in the summer to compete for the World Cup qualifiers. And that was, obviously we've never played any teams outside of kind of Europe, I guess Australasia and like the Commonwealth teams. We've never played against any African countries. So it's really cool to see FIBA kind of put in these new initiatives to get teams to go to different locations, play against countries you wouldn't normally. And it was great as well because I had an opportunity to kind of step up into a larger role than I've had in the past. Some of the more mature players weren't available, so we kind of got more playing time. There were a lot of young talented players coming through as well. So yeah, great to be there, have that experience. We got a new coach as well from Spain who's an amazing coach and was an amazing player as well. So it's cool to have.
Cool. And how long have you played for Team GB?
So I first started playing for the juniors when I was 13, 14. Obviously being tall, I kind of got identified quite early on. We had a really strong age group back then, so we won 2 silver medals at European Championships, which was really cool. Yeah. And then
see, she's modest here because she didn't really mention that in her bio. I mean, we didn't get none of that in the bio. That's okay.
I was in a rush. It's been a busy week.
I know it was last minute, so sorry. But
yeah, so we won 2 European silver medals. We got promoted to Division A both times. I played for the under-20s as well. Quite young as well. I played 3 years of under-20s, and then I was called up to the national team, the senior team, when I was 17, which was a really amazing experience because I was the younger one. It was the year after the London Olympics, so we had a lot of power from there, which was amazing. So kind of been in and out of the senior team since then.
Okay, cool. And when we talked about all these things, could you share a particular moment that you could consider, I would say, a turning point in everything that you've been going through, that you've done in your life? Like, what was a turning point for you, do you think?
Yeah.
Or turning points? Yeah,
that's definitely turning points, I would say. I think definitely 17, that was the year that I think I started to realize, I'm actually quite good at this. I've got potential. That was when I did that year. I did under 18s, under 20s, and senior level GB. So I was like, wow, people are recognizing me. People are putting effort into developing me because they think that I could have a future in GB. It was also the year that I was recruited to go to the States. I was making that big change as well. So I'd say that was kind of a turning point in my career. I think at the time, if I'd have stayed in the UK, because the setup wasn't as strong with basketball, I don't know how I would have developed. I think now it's different. I think now you can stay in the UK and develop. But that was quite a big turning point. And then the other one I would say was when I was in Belgium 2 years ago. I played professional basketball in Belgium, which was really amazing, loved it, but the team was coming under financial stress. And I wasn't getting paid on time. It was honestly the first time I've experienced that. All my other teams paid on time, no issues, communication's great. So I started to kind of think about, what are my options? Do I want to finish out the season in another country where I don't know the situation, if I'm going to get paid? Or do I want to start looking into other things? And actually, I just so happened to be on Indeed.com, and I saw the job advert at Durham. And I was kind of humming and hawing. I was speaking to my mom, speaking to some of her colleagues, and one of them said to me, because I said, you know what, I don't think I'm qualified for this. I've never had a proper office job. Durham's such a great university. There's no way I would get it. And she said to me, and I'm probably going to offend people saying this, so I apologize in advance. She said, if you were a white middle-aged man, even if you were just 1% qualified, you would think, yeah, you've got it in the bag. She said, you got to have the confidence of someone like that and believe in yourself and back yourself, because you're way more qualified than you think you are. Just go for it. So yeah, I put myself forward, didn't hear anything for like a month, which now I know is because when the job app came out, it's travel season, it was hectic, but I just thought not got it at all. Kind of was back and forth emailing with Durham about if I could play basketball as well at the same time. Randomly got an email saying, hey, can you come out and interview? I'm still in season. The interview, thankfully, is the day after a game. So I flew out without telling the team. I flew out to Durham and back within 24 hours, made it back in time for practice without anyone knowing what was going on. And on my way back, they offered me right away. So about 6 hours after the interview, they said, yeah, you're the number one candidate. And I was just like, wow. And,
Smooth.
and for me, like that interaction has changed my life. I mean, not just because I now have a great job, I'm back at Durham, but because I know that I am qualified for any job I want to kind of put my mind to, and I should go for it. Even if the answer is no, I need to put myself out there, because if you don't ask, the answer is always going to be no.
It's interesting because like when you talk about your experiences, you talk about like this confidence, like you've accomplished so much, but then there's still sometimes you have to and isn't that sometimes that lack of confidence is internalized a bit, and it's kind of like these different experiences are kind of helping you grow a bit.
And I think for me as well, like I guess when you're quite ambitious, you're kind of always looking at the next thing, and sometimes you forget to realize like what you're in right now is
that's a great point.
Is good, and you kind of forget to appreciate everything you've achieved, everything that you got going on. So that's something that I'm trying to work on. Recognizing
definitely, because I know, because sometimes when I talk to you, like even when I said before about your bio, like there's a lot in there, and I kind of struggle with that too, because like your mom made a great point about like I know, and I've heard like when it comes to like interviews and stuff, it's like you have to brag about yourself in a way, even if you're not that type of person. It's you still. But I try to look at it as it's not bragging. You just got to look at it from a point where I've accomplished these things. I've earned this space to be in. You know. But thank you for sharing that. Thank you. That's cool. And now when it comes to like, you did mention as well when you were talking about you had nothing prior to that, as far as before the interview. Yeah. Like, do you think that anything that you would change? Would you not change as far as like trying to set yourself up for later down the line? Yeah. So again, with me not bragging, I did. When I was overseas, I always was like, do you know what? I'm going to use this as an opportunity to learn the language that I'm in. So for me, that was a big thing. I also did work over the summer at different international schools, and I did start helping with student recruitment process from Europe to the US. So I did always kind of try to have one thing that I had outside of sports just to kind of add to my resume. But that's something that I wish, again, if I could go back in time, I would tell myself to just enjoy it, because especially after COVID time, people learned what really mattered. And obviously outside of your loved one, for me, I miss the travel. I miss being able to go and see people. So the fact that basketball was giving me the opportunity to see the world,
You know, you have your whole life to work an office job.
Facts.
You know, and it's so much harder for me now. Like, I have a great job. I get paid 12 months out of the year instead of 9 or 10. It's going to be so much harder for me to eventually decide to quit this job. So while you kind of have that flexibility, while you're young and you have those opportunities, go and do it. Durham did not ask me one question about, oh, why have you kind of not got that stable career background? And also being an athlete, again, people underestimate us. The stereotypes of athletes are, oh, they're stupid, they're dumb. I actually remember when I was a student at Durham, one of my student cohort, someone on my course made some sort of comment about, oh, well, you're here because you're an athlete. And I turned around, and I said, well, actually, if anything, I'm smarter than you because I'm here on a scholarship. You know, I have managed to get into this great university and I'm also getting it funded for me. So, you know, so I think there's so many transferable skills that athletes have that people are looking for.
Yeah, that's amazing. Yeah, because that resonates to me too. Like when I started my PhD, people would assume that I was studying sport, you know, those types of things. So I hear you on that one. But what you said is very profound about accepting the space that you're in, just accepting the process and being, appreciating where you're at, you know, and that's why I try to tell some of the postgraduates when they come here, like sometimes that going back is about, if you want to play, seek every opportunity to do that, you know, because like you only have, there's not that many chances to be able to do that, especially when you're already out here. And like you said, sometimes you have to, 9 to 5 is different than if you're trying to play basketball, because you can have different networks, can have different opportunities. So that is very important. Okay, thank you for that. Now, thank you for that. And there's one thing I want to ask you. You know, you're talking about women's and men's basketball, right? So now it's growing, right? I always used to say this before, like a few years ago, I would always say, and it resonates to what you were saying, I felt like women's basketball, the reason why at times or before people were less interested is because I felt like you had to appreciate the game more. Yeah. Does that make sense?
That's a good point. Yeah.
Like, because you have to understand like ball movement, skill, you know, it's a bit different than like you said, and depending on what you're watching, obviously EuroLeague and NBA has different rules. It's more, the big court's bigger, so it's a bit more one-on-one, but like, and it's more athleticism, whatever, however you want to define athleticism. But how do you feel about that? Because you did kind of say that, but in a different way.
Do you know what? I think you're correct in that, because people go to games to be entertained. That's what they want. And for people who don't know about sports, they see a dunk and they're like, wow, that's amazing. That's true. Okay. They don't see everything that's gone to set up that dunk. So I think that's a great point. And I think that's one of the things that the women's game is working to improve, is not actually the basketball, but it's the game day experience. So for example, for us, we've now got, you know, baskets on the side, kids can go play, they've got a bouncy castle to enjoy, it captivates them. They've got more interactions with us, so they still get that entertainment that they don't have to think about. But I think as soon as you start to understand basketball, you definitely do appreciate it.
Everyone has a different like opinion, but that's how I've always saw it, kinda, you know, because I love basketball. So okay, now it's getting good. We're good on time. How is your work or what you're doing, flipping the script, like flipping the traditional, those stereotypes, and how are you navigating them? Like, how are you navigating sport in your career? How are you navigating that? Is that simple?
Yeah, definitely. So I think in the international office, we are always trying to recruit from a lot of different areas, and we're trying to make it more accessible for those people. So whether that's through scholarships, whether that's through getting out there so they can actually see what it looks like, getting counselors over here. And I think sports as well, people tend to be from different socioeconomic backgrounds. And again, there's a lot of scholarships through that sport too. I think it's just trying to connect more people to the opportunities that I was kind of lucky to have growing up.
Right. And how do you manage that? Because I know you work basically 9 to 5, whatnot, and then you go play. Yeah. So, and we have practices, and you have games on the weekends. This past weekend was a doubleheader.
It was rough. I couldn't walk for about 3 days afterwards.
How do you manage your body? Do you ice tubs or anything, or just...
I love my massage gun.
Yes, I got one over there.
Yeah, I don't always lift the hardest.
Okay.
I try to manage that. Obviously, like Tuesday lifts, I will, but Thursdays, I'm kind of like, all right, I need to load manage. I definitely see the masseuse on a Monday. I've got my 4:30 slot, which is amazing.
Okay. Cool.
I think the biggest thing for me is mentally switching over from work to basketball and making sure that things don't drip in and out. So, for example, if I've had a rough day, that I've had some sort of difficult interaction with a student, or they've told me they want to go to Loughborough instead of Durham or something, I've got to make sure, all right, as soon as I step into Maiden Castle, that's done with, and I got to see those 2 hours of training. It's not, I've now got to go do this. I'm lucky to still be able to play. I'm lucky to have an outlet for my frustrations, for my energy, and I'm lucky to be able to do it with a great group of people. I've got really great teammates, and I've also got really great work colleagues. I'm in such a supportive environment.
Smooth.
So yeah,
that's good. Okay, so all right, thank you for that. And now, where do you see yourself and like the work leaving, like I would say, a lasting legacy, or like a positively impacting other people?
Yeah. So for me, I always say, like, I don't have big plans to change the world. I used to interview high schoolers for my undergrad institution. They would always say, I'm going to become president. I'm going to do this and that. I'm going to cure cancer, which I really hope they do. That'd be great. But for me, I just want to be that one positive interaction that someone has had. So, like my mum's colleague who said to me, go for it, you're qualified. I don't think she'll ever realize how much of a lasting impact that had on me. I want to have one meaningful conversation with someone, give them that belief that they can do it, share my knowledge in that way, give them the opportunity to come study, at Durham, and maybe they go on to have an amazing career, maybe they meet their life partner. I just want to be one small % of their story, and that would be amazing to me.
One conversation can change your life, can't it?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, the authenticity. Okay, thank you for that.
Yeah.
Now we're at the concluding part. You made it. We've made it. We have made it. Now we're at the concluding part of the show, and you're gonna offer us insight around is ball life, right? So if you could reflect on your journey thus far, what do you know now that you wish you knew before?
Yeah. I think that I wish I would have enjoyed it a bit more. I think I would have said, again, like we spoke about, be more in the moment, enjoy where you've got to, appreciate the hard work you've put into it, and enjoy that hard work. I think, like I kind of mentioned, having that self-belief that you belong, you are good enough. I think that's definitely the thing that I've struggled with most. And I look back again at my career, or I look at photos of myself, and I'm like, wow, like I was really doing the thing.
Right.
So I think that's kind of the biggest thing, is having that belief in myself.
Okay.
Seeing that.
Believe in yourself.
Yeah.
Okay. Cool. All right. Smooth. Now we're at the last question.
Yeah.
Are you ready?
Yeah.
We've talked a bit about, you being an international officer.
Yeah.
Talked about your upbringing,
Yeah.
being a middle child, but not the forgotten child.
Yeah.
We talked about Team GB.
Yeah.
Some of the work that you've done, being an athlete, a player. Now, my last question for you is ball life?
That is an amazing question. I think, if I can say this, ball isn't life. I've always worked really hard to kind of make sure I wasn't just a typical student athlete, but ball has given me life. Everything good to kind of come out of my experiences, my opportunities, everything has been given to me because of basketball. My education, my job, my friends, travel, my appreciation of different cultures, languages. So I would say that ball has given me life, and I would be a completely different person without it.
Powerful. Thank you. So ball has given you life.
Yeah.
Smooth. Okay. That's smooth. Now, how are you feeling?
Great.
Cool. Now we're at the end now, and do you have any social media handles or platforms that people can follow you on?
Yeah, sure. So my Instagram is Harriet OS1. might have a Facebook. Wouldn't add me on that. I won't accept it. Don't look at it. I've also got my LinkedIn now that I'm a professional, Harriet Ottewill-Soulsby, but again, I've not updated that for a while.
I'll have to connect with you.
I would say stick to the Instagram if you want to stay most connected with me. I'm trying to reduce my social media intake, so I'll go with that one.
And who is what about for Durham Palatinates?
Yes, great one.
Shout out to Durham.
Shout out to Durham. We've got the Team DU BBC, and then we've also got at Durham Palatinates. It used to be WBBL, so it might be SBL now, but there's not many Palatinate accounts, so you will find us. And then I'll also give a quick shout out to Jo Davey, who runs Little Ballers. She's done a phenomenal job with getting more children involved in basketball in the community.
Yeah, it's definitely growing.
Yeah, and they all come to our game, and I think there's such a hidden pool of unknown talent in the Northeast, which hasn't quite been nurtured into that great kind of junior program yet, and I feel like that's kind of one step in the way of developing that. So definitely go follow Little Ballers as well.
I'll always trust the women for the grassroots level.
Yeah.
No offense, Lee, I'm just playing. But yeah. But thank you for joining today, and Is ball life? Is ball life.
Thanks for having me.
All right, thank you. Ooh-wee. Yeah, that was amazing. I feel like a lot of her story resonated a bit because I know we both work here and played at the same time. But I know I'm not playing anymore, but it's amazing her story around, that confidence, being confident in herself and trying to navigate certain spaces in different countries, different areas of life, different cultures, and it's amazing to see what basketball or sport can bring to someone's life, right? And thank you, Harriet, for sharing your story. You're amazing. Keep loving yourself. Keep doing you. I was very profound in her answer when she talked about just a conversation is what she appreciates, and I thought that resonated with me. Like, it's just a positive conversation. Just that one conversation she had when she was talking about her interview. And that is important, right? It's about a lot of times it's about the small things in life, and some small things can have a profound impact, right? And how we navigate, how we feel about ourselves, right? And how we what we internalize. That's why I said words are powerful, have emotional powers, and how we are towards other people is very important, right? Just saying a few words can impact someone's life, someone's year, someone's week. So it's important just to try our best to be kind. Speak truth to insecure power, Bo. Don't get it twisted. Speak truth to insecure power, but it's important to view life that way. And how Harriet mentioned that was amazing. And I think her story, I hope people are listening, especially when it comes to women's basketball. Like I said, like how I feel, you got to appreciate the skill level of basketball. You have to appreciate the game specifically. And some of these casuals don't know what they're talking about when it comes to women's basketball or whatever. But yeah, if you appreciate the skill level and just basketball in general, there's a different type of appreciation when it comes to viewership. Yeah, at times, but it's definitely growing. Happy to see that, and I think it's important to see it from that point of view. But thank you all for tuning in. Thank you, Harriet, for giving us an idea of your background and how you navigated life, how you're just developing more confidence. Keep loving yourself, love those around you. I'm sure you're gonna keep doing amazing things. Yep. All right. One love.